Welcome to Aging in Style with me, Lori Williams. I'm an optimist by nature, and I believe you can follow your dreams at any age. My grandmother's journey with dementia ignited a passion in me to work with seniors. I've spent the past 13 years learning about seniors and aging. In my mid-50s, I followed my own dream and founded my company, where I use my expertise to help seniors locate housing and resources. On this podcast, we cover all aspects of aging. Join us each week to meet senior living experts and inspirational seniors who are following their dreams. The fact is, we're all aging, so why not do it in style? Hi, welcome to Aging in Style with Lori Williams. I'm so glad you're here today, and I think you're really going to enjoy our guest. We have Kristin Woods with us today, and she is the Regional Director of Sales for North and East Texas areas for Holiday Retirement. And I met Kristin about 10 years ago when she got into senior living. So I've known her and watched her just grow through her career in senior living. So Kristin is originally from Texas, a true Texan here.
I know, it's unusual.
It really is. So she went to college at Midwestern State University, and while there, her sorority, Sigma Kappa, was involved with the Alzheimer's Association. And at that time, that's where she gained her love of seniors and dementia. And Kristin began her career in senior living 10 years ago. She's held every sales position you can think of, from sales counselor to regional director of sales, and I've known her all along that journey. She has also worked for some of the biggest names in senior living, including Brookdale and Holiday Retirement. And while at Brookdale, she was trained in dementia care techniques, was named the 2013 East Texas Region Leader in Sales, and was a member of the President's Club. So Kristin really, she knows what she's talking about. While working,
she fakes it until she makes it, right?
No, she knows. Let's see, let me get back to her bio here. So while working in senior living, Kristin's passion for helping families and those with dementia increased as she became one of the primary caregivers for her grandfather who had Alzheimer's. She eventually helped her own family navigate through placing him in memory care, which gave her direct insight into what families were feeling and dealing with every single day. All right, Kristin.
Hello. Yes, thank you. It's always funny when you hear your own bio.
I know, right? Well, you should be impressed. I'm very impressed with you, as always.
Well, thank you. That was so nice. Yes,
Sure. You're welcome. So let's kind of just jump into it. We're going to talk about independent living, and there's different types of senior living out there, and people get confused. And the type we're going to talk about, what Holiday Retirement, is the all-inclusive independent living, or as sometimes referred to, the cruise ship on land. So
yes.
Tell us about what that means, all-inclusive, what's involved in that.
Yeah. So that's, since Lori and I have been in senior living a very long time, we get a lot of people that look at us with kind of a funny blank stare, like, what do you mean it's not a nursing home?
Exactly.
Or what do you mean it's not assisted living? And before we started the podcast, we were actually talking about how people get just a little confused. There's confusion around it, and they just don't know what they don't know. And so hopefully today we can answer some of that. And so it was funny that Lori mentioned the cruise ship on the ground, because I actually work for Holiday Retirement. Holiday is the oldest and longest provider of senior independent living in the United States. Almost 50 years, actually, that we've been in business. Yeah.
That's amazing. I didn't know that. I'm learning so much about Holiday that I didn't know.
Yeah. So almost 50 years. And it's funny that you say the cruise ship on the ground, because when Holiday was first founded, one of the reasons why it was first founded is one of the founding people wanted a place for his mom and had gone on a cruise and loved the activity and the atmosphere. And when they came back, he had this concept, like, what if we had a cruise ship on the ground? And so many of the holiday retirement communities across the United States, there's actually 260 communities across the United States, and they look like cruise ships on the ground. Not all of the communities. We've had various acquisitions and things like that, but I would say over 100 of them are very similar to what you would think a cruise ship would look like. So wide open spaces, places for people to do activities, big dining rooms, that kind of thing. So that's kind of where the concept came from.
And that's so funny. I never knew that until you mentioned that earlier, right before we started recording. I had no idea that's where that came from. And I've been around Holiday for 13 years.
Yes. I didn't know that until I joined the organization either. So that's kind of where the phrase, if you will, came from. So, but yeah, so when you talk about a cruise ship on the ground, you know, when you think of a cruise ship, you do think of activities and fun and food. Yeah, lots and lots of food. Mm-hmm. And so when we talk about independent, all-inclusive living, and there are other brands other than Holiday that have independent, inclusive. So I'm going to talk about what we have. And similar company, there are similar companies and things as well. You just kind of have to find the one that's best for you.
Yeah. I always say they're similar, but they have different flavors. Basically, correct. You find the one that fits for you. Correct.
Holiday, when we say all inclusive, we include 3 meals per day. We include weekly housekeeping. So someone coming in and cleaning your apartment every week so you don't have to. I'm like, sign me up.
For real.
Right? And 3 meals on a terrible cook.
Oh, I would love it personally.
Oh, yeah. All inclusive when it comes to utilities. That's a big one. So things like electricity, water, sewer, that's all included. Many of our communities also include cable, which I don't know if you've looked at your cable bill lately. So
it's expensive.
That's a big one. And then transportation, that's another big inclusive thing. So we definitely encourage our seniors to be as active as possible. And if they want to bring their cars, totally they can. And I think if they don't want that,
yeah, with transportation, y'all do not just like group outings. You can take them to the doctor and stuff, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's one of the main things that we do is medical transport, to like doctor's appointments, to dialysis, to chemotherapy, things like that, those life-sustaining medical needs that are so important. I mean, when you're 90 years old and let's say you have glaucoma and you shouldn't be driving anymore, you don't want to have to worry about getting to your dialysis appointment. Yeah. So that's also included. Activities are included. We have a very extensive activity program, everything you can think of. So it's not your grandma's retirement community, if you will, where all you think of is bingo.
Exactly. I know y'all
we do have bingo.
Yeah, you have bingo because I've actually called bingo at some of your communities.
But we have so many other things.
I love, one of the things I love y'all do is the beanbag baseball. And I know there's like a competitive league. Like they were traveling around and competing with beanbag baseball, which is actually very fun. I've played that too. It's
super fun. Yeah. Whenever I can get into a community, I love to play beanbag baseball. It's kind of like cornhole, if you've ever played cornhole before. But yes, we have very competitive groups of older folks, and they have T-shirts, and
it's a big deal.
They go to different retirement communities and compete against each other. COVID has definitely put a little wrench in that, but hopefully in the fall or getting into the winter months, we will be able to do that again.
Yeah, get back to their competition. And I know y'all do like crafts, and you bring, normally when it's not COVID times, you bring in entertainment, have happy hours. Y'all do so many fun things.
We do. I know. You're right. Happy hours, entertainers. A lot of our residents are actually entertainers. They have talents, and they play the piano, or they sing, or they were part of theater groups. And so I think actually during COVID, it's kind of helped us to see little sparks of what they may have done before they retired, because they're providing that type of entertainment, or they're leading the activities.
Great.
So yeah, it's actually not a bad, I mean, it's been a challenge, but it's not a bad thing.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. How has COVID-19 affected, how things are going in independent living? What are you seeing? And I know it's turned everyone upside down.
Is that a loaded question?
Yeah, I know. Sorry.
No, it's a great question, actually. I'm actually glad we're talking about it, because I think there's been some misconceptions when it comes to, are retirement communities safe? Should I make that leap into a community lifestyle? And I'm a straight shooter. Lori knows that about me.
Absolutely.
So has there been cases of COVID in skilled nursing communities and assisted livings? Yeah, absolutely. There has. And that's been really, really tough on the industry. But because we saw that, and independent living is different than those particular types of communities, our response, I just can't even tell you, Holiday's response, I've never seen so many protocols rolled out in like 24 hours. It was just amazing, and we continue to build upon that. And so to go back to whether or not it's safe or not, I think it's actually safer. And the reason why I say that, there's a number of reasons. So we have rolled out protocols when it comes to cleaning. We're cleaning like 6 and 7 times a day. We're going all the way down to, oh, sorry about that. It was your invitation telling me that we have a podcast.
Oh, oh, that's weird.
Sorry. So, but anyway, so we're cleaning everything down to like elevator buttons and doorknobs, and making sure that our communities are extremely clean. That's one of the main things. And actually, our enhanced protocols have resulted in 44% lower infection rates in our communities compared to the national average. So
that's something to be proud of. Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
It's absolutely working. We are doing screenings every day of our associates. Twice a day, they get their temperatures checked.
And I can attest to that, because my daughter actually works at one of your holiday communities. She's 17, right. And she's there right now, actually running the snack cart to everyone's apartment, which I think is so cool.
Yes, that's another thing we implemented. Yep. So we've had to, obviously, typically people eat in a dining room together, and just for safety precautions, we've had to do meal delivery service. So although our residents, I think, have been quite spoiled with that and are not minding that they're getting pampered that way.
That, and then the snack cart, I think it's twice a day, morning and afternoon. And I'm telling you, it's like Cheetos and cookies, all kinds of stuff on it. So Abby says it's very, very popular.
It's extremely popular. So the snack cart was implemented too. Because a lot of our residents can't get out. And when we were in shelter in place here in Texas, they really couldn't get out. And so obviously, if you think about a senior that's living in their own home and they can't get out, that means they're not getting groceries, or maybe they're scared to go out and get groceries.
Or they're going out and then they're exposing themselves. Because I saw a lot of that when the whole COVID began. I was personally scared to go to the grocery, and
me too.
Yeah, I went one day, and with my mask and everything on, and I couldn't believe all the seniors that were out shopping, and it just, it broke my heart. But if they were living at home and had no one nearby, how could they get their groceries?
Exactly. And a lot of times seniors some are, but they're not as tech savvy.
I was
so they
thinking
don't
that
always
too.
Know how to do the delivery services and things like that. And so you're right. Their routine is to go to the grocery store on Wednesday morning and get what they need. And yeah, you're absolutely right. It was not safe. And probably right now, considering that Texas still is a hot spot.
Yeah, we're a hot spot now.
Not necessarily that safe either. And so the other thing that a lot of people don't think about, especially when you have a large company like Holiday, you're able to have more resources when it comes to food delivery. So we know who's delivering our food. We know where it's coming from. We know who's touched it, who hasn't touched it. And so we're able to control that. Whereas if you're going into a grocery store, you have no idea who touched that lemon right before you did. You have no idea what safety protocols they're using. So when it comes to food, we are extremely safe, probably the safest you can be. And we do serve 3 meals a day and the snack cart, which is extremely popular, twice a day. So, because we want our residents to be obviously healthy, they need to eat. And we also want to make sure they're hydrated. That's a big one,
Absolutely.
too.
That is huge. And
dehydration is not good in seniors.
No, because they don't drink water like they should. I mean, it's an interesting thing. It's like they don't have the feeling like the need to drink water, and it's kind of like a double-edged sword there for them. So it's so important to continue that hydration.
Absolutely.
Encourage that.
Yeah.
What about in your community, kind of getting back to some of the things y'all have there, you do allow pets, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. How could I forget our furry friends? Yes. All holiday communities are pet friendly. So we allow small dogs, cats. We have a couple of birds in some of our communities, depending on how loud they are.
They can be loud.
Yeah. So usually it depends on the community, but typically up to 2 pets, small. So like 2 cats or a cat and a dog.
And then a dog up to like 20 pounds, 40 pounds. What do you?
That varies. In our region, it's usually 30 to 35 pounds because a lot of dogs are fat.
Yeah. I have noticed that there's a little weight issue with some dogs, in the community. So
you might have a 30-pound mini schnauzer.
They're well taken care of, well fed, we'll say.
Yes, they're well loved.
They're well loved. And, that is a question that I get a lot. And people say, I don't want to move because I don't want to leave my dog. And it's like, you don't have to leave your dog. I mean, unless it's like 100-pound pit bull or aggressive or whatever. I mean, then yes, in that case. But you can bring your dog, you can bring your cat. And
we encourage that, actually.
Absolutely.
And the residents it really does become like a family in the community. And residents love to see other people's dogs and when they're out walking them so a lot of our communities actually have dog parks too. So they can run around and they love it. And dogs and cats, well, I'm not a cat person, but I know lots of people are. They bring so much joy.
They do. And they give a purpose. You have to get up and feed the dog, take it for a walk, or take it outside. I know some of your communities actually have patios where the seniors have fenced in like a little area and they actually have dog doors, which I'm like, that is very cool.
Yeah, we do. I love that about our communities. Depending on where the apartment is located in the community, almost all of our communities, the apartments, all of them have patios, almost all of them, which is another great feature because people love to be outside. But yeah, you're absolutely right. On the first floor units, several of them, depending on the community and kind of how it's situated on, what type of land it has, we absolutely have little fenced in areas where people can have a little dog door going out from their patio door so that their little doggy or cat, sometimes outside cats, they like to go out too. And so, you're absolutely right. We absolutely do have that.
Another thing that I encourage people about your communities, if they're living at home and, it's time for them to make a move and they're considering independent living, a lot of times they don't realize that you can add on some services, personal assistant services. So say they need reminders for medication, which is usually the first thing people need. You actually have services in the building, and I guess in most of the buildings, where they can contract with that service and have their medication delivered to them and make sure they're taking it. So you want to tell us a little bit about that?
No, absolutely. I think when you're talking about retirement communities that have inclusive services, I personally think, and I have sold all kinds of senior living, but when it comes to being really cost effective, if you're working on a budget, and let's say, for instance, you're in your retirement community, you're getting all of your basic needs met, but like Lori mentioned, you're on 20 medications and you're 90 years old. You may be cognitively alert, but I don't know about you, keeping track of 20 medications 3 times a day, that would be hard for me.
I have trouble just taking my vitamins every day.
Yeah, exactly.
Did I take it? I'm all the time like, well, I'll just take it again.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is probably not good.
I know. I do that with Allegra. I'm like, did I take that?
Yeah, I mean, so you can completely see if you're a senior and you're taking lots of medications and you don't want to double up on some of these, that could kill you basically with some of the meds.
Well, it can.
Yeah.
And you can get into polypharmacy where you're mixing meds and things. And so I use that as an example because a lot of times, people will say, well, my mom needs assisted living. And there is nothing wrong with assisted living. Assisted livings are great. Worked in many of them. But if you've got someone that is thriving in independent living, and all they really need is that extra oversight on medication, it makes a lot more sense to add on a service from a third party, either like a home health or a home care company that can set the pill boxes up, or maybe has a nurse that can make sure that all the medicines are correct for the week. Those services can be added on for a minimal cost usually. And most of our communities, actually pretty much all of my communities have home health or home care companies actually officing on site. So you're in the state of Texas, you don't have to use anyone in particular. You have the right to choose. But a lot of times people will choose the on-site third-party caregivers because they're right there.
And it's less expensive because they're in the building.
Yes. And it's also tends to be less expensive than assisted living as well. So if you're working on a budget, it just makes a lot of sense. I would say the two biggest things that we do in independent living when it comes to layering care needs, if you will, is medication management and shower assistance.
Yeah. And I think with that, I mean, a lot of times when people call me, what they are looking for are meals, socialization, and medication. And that you can get all of that, especially, if you can't afford assisted living. I mean,
correct.
This is a perfect alternative. And I, it keeps them active and,
very much so.
I love all-inclusive independent living, and I think it's so important for people to understand that they can get these services in that environment.
You're so right. I think, and hopefully we're educating some people today about that.
Yes, that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, because it is so hard. When you're navigating as a family, you don't know where to look or what to do. And a lot of times our medical professionals will say things like, well, I think your mom needs assisted living. And they kind of just use that as a blanket term through no fault at all.
They just don't know. They're not
They just don't understand or know And a lot of people, they trust their doctors. And so when they hear that, they think, oh, I have to move to assisted living. And then they see, oh, I don't think my mom can afford that. That's why it's so important to understand all your options.
Absolutely.
And all-inclusive senior communities really do provide, like Lori said, that mental stimulation, that socialization. Even if you have someone in very early stages of dementia or Alzheimer's, a lot of times they can live in independent living because it provides a routine. And that's extremely important for someone that has even early stages of dementia.
And they're getting meals, they're eating properly, because that's what, I would say the calls I get are typically, I've gone to see mom and she doesn't have good food. There's expired food in the fridge. She's not eating right. She's just watching TV. And a lot of times we see just I mean, amazing. They blossom when they get into independent living because they're getting good food, they're getting social interaction, their meds are straightened out, they're taking their meds. I mean, it's life changing. It's really a game changer, I think.
It really is life changing. I think so often I I hear people say, well, I want to keep my mom at home as long as possible. I don't want to move her. And I think to myself, why? Because typically and not always, but most of the time, when people are 85 years old, their spouse of 60 years has passed away, they're not driving as much anymore. They're sitting, watching TV or reading a book in one room of their 4-bedroom house. They're not getting the purpose and lifestyle that a community can bring to them.
Totally agree.
When you're in a community setting, it's funny because people will say, well, I'm not very social. Well, you don't have to be. We're not going to force you to be the life of the party. But if you want to be, that's good. But if you don't want to be, that's okay. You can be as independent as you want to be. You can be as social as you want to be. You can be as introverted as you want to be. But it does provide those supportive services to allow you to live a better life. And that's what Holiday's mission is to help older people live better. Because I don't know about you, but sitting at home alone, I don't really know how that's living a very exciting, better life. It's just not.
No, I completely agree. And, if you're a senior and you're at home and you're no longer able to drive, I mean, you're basically become a prisoner in your own home.
Yes.
So I would love to break down, because I feel like there's that stereotype people have that I'm sending them to a nursing home. Everything's a nursing home. And it's like, that's a purpose of this podcast. I hope we can reach more people and just educate them on all the different options that are available. And if you choose to stay home, that's fine. You do what works for you, but just know that there are other options out there.
I agree. And sometimes being at home, that works for some people. But for a lot of people, it doesn't. And that's why we have senior living. And that's why we have different activities and events. And we want your life to continue. We don't want your life to stop when you're retired or when, unfortunately, maybe a spouse passes away. You still have purpose. We have to find it again sometimes. Sometimes people have their whole purpose in like their children or their spouse, and if they were an awesome homemaker and that's all they did their whole life, and then their children grew up and they're out of the house, their grandkids are gone, their spouse is gone, and they're like, what do I do now? So then that's where that depression sets in, and not eating and confusion and that kind of stuff. And that's when people start to go downhill. Independent living can give you back or even show you a different type of purpose for your life. Just because you're 85 years old doesn't mean you can't have purpose for the next 5, 10, 15 years.
Exactly.
It just might look a little different.
Yeah. Which reminds me that we were talking earlier about inspirational seniors. And I know that you have met tons of them throughout your career, but you were telling me about a really special one at one of your communities. So tell us about this spectacular senior.
We have so many awesome seniors. But I was thinking about this gentleman. He's 107. He might be 108. Gosh. He's either 107 or 108.
That's amazing.
I can't. He just had his birthday not too long ago. He lives at the Bentley, which is a community in Dallas. And I lied. No, he's at White Rock. I have another lady at the Bentley who's like 103. Anyway,
that's amazing, isn't it?
I know. He's at White Rock Court. But he was still volunteering at Baylor as like a greeter type person.
Wow.
For years. He walks on his own, sharp as a tack. He comes to every activity in the community. So I always say age is just a number.
Mm-hmm. I do too. Absolutely.
And working in senior living, I never know how old people are. Like I've gotten to this point where I'm like, someone will tell me I'm 94 and I'm like, really? You look 70, and they're, I don't know, because they're so active and it's so hard to tell. So when people say, well, my mom's only 82, and I'm like, well, okay, that's all right. Like, she's young. Well, yeah, that's all right. I have 65-year-olds that live in my community that want to have fun and be active, and I have 105-year-olds that want to have fun.
There's
and be
a
active.
huge range, and probably the 107-year-old, well, I'm sure of it, is that he found purpose, so he continued volunteering.
Absolutely.
Which there's this fantastic gentleman out here in Flower Mound who I want to interview. He doesn't know this yet, but I'm going to interview him. But
he's going to hear this and say, oh, that was me.
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. So he's 94. His name is Doug. And I've heard him say this over and over, and I love it. He tells people when they retire, if you retire and turn on the TV and sit down, you're going to die there. You need to get busy. You need to volunteer. And Doug and his wife, Claire, they are everywhere in Flower Mound. They volunteer to do, the voter registration. They're everywhere. And I think that's why they are so active and doing so well still, because they have that purpose and they're not just sitting in front of the TV. They're active and moving around.
It's so true. Now, I like watching TV, but not all day long, every single day. That's got to be so boring.
I think it would be. And then also that you just don't have a purpose. I could see where it would lead to depression.
And we see that a lot in seniors. And sometimes depression can mimic dementia.
Yes.
Even though someone may not have dementia at all, depression can make your brain confused or come across that way.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing? The things we learn in senior living. I didn't know that until I started working in senior living.
Yeah, me either. And that's why it's so important to be active. And that doesn't mean running a marathon, but it does mean stimulating your brain, doing activities, and actually even coming to meals and having a conversation with your table mate stimulates your brain at least 3 times a day, because you're conversing, you're talking about maybe the news, or you're talking about what your grandkids did at their high school graduation, or whatever the case may be. That really helps to stimulate your brain. So even if you're not an overly like, oh, I want to go to every activity on the calendar type person, if you're coming to meals and you're making even that core group of friends, that helps. And it helps a lot.
Even talking to the staff in the community. So,
absolutely.
Like, I know my daughter every day when she's doing the snack cart delivery, back to that snack cart, but
we're going to have to get her like a cute little shirt that says snack girl or something.
That would be so cute, wouldn't it? So yeah, that's a cute idea. But she says she stops in and she takes her time with them because of COVID, they're not out as much as they were, and the activities and stuff. And she says that she stops and talks with them, and and it's just so important to have that human connection. And and she's just a staff member, or I shouldn't say just a staff member. She's the snack cart girl.
Yeah.
But if you're sitting home, you're not getting that interaction. I mean, you're getting very minimal interaction.
Yeah.
The other thing I was thinking, you also, like, if you're home and you maybe walk into 2 different rooms, that's all your exercise you're getting. Maybe you go from your bedroom to your kitchen to your bathroom, that's it. But in a community, you're walking from your apartment, you have your own apartment, and you walk from that down to the dining room or down to activities. You're getting more exercise.
Oh, definitely. Actually, there's a cute lady at Pinewood that walks the whole building for her exercise all day, every day. I see her, no matter, whenever I'm at Pinewood, she's there walking. Because,
maybe I should come to Pinewood and walk with her, because it's close to my house and I need to get some exercise. So
we also have, most of our communities have nice walking sidewalks and trails all the way around them too, to promote that, because we want to promote that healthy lifestyle. But yeah, it's hot right now, so they walk inside.
Well, that makes sense.
But we do have exercise classes as well. I think a lot of times people think, well, I broke my hip. I'm on a walker. I can't exercise. Well, that's not true. We do chair exercises. You can still exercise those muscles. And actually, exercise is another great thing for combating dementia and depression.
And depression, yes, absolutely.
So it's very, very important to stay physically active as well as mentally active. And that's another thing a community can give to you.
Definitely can. So thank you so much, Kristin. I think this has been just a great conversation, and I hope that everyone listening really gets a lot out of it. So I'm going to put Kristin's information on the website, and you'll be able to reach out to her if you have any questions or if you want to know more about holiday retirement. And as always, you can go to my website and see everything there. It's LoriWilliams-SeniorServices.com. And if you have a topic you want to learn about or learn more about, please send me an email at LoriWilliams-SeniorServices.com. Thanks again for listening, and stay safe out there. Bye-bye.